Hey everybody, what's up again? The NFL insiders are at it again, and this time they came out with the list of top 10 NFL tight ends for the 2022 NFL season, and of course, I'm going to go over that list. This time I'm going to do a little bit differently. I've been doing number one first, but I guess usually they do lists from like the lower number and go up, so kind of builds up the suspense of who's number one at the end. So, guess that's something I'm gonna do this time. But honorable mentions. There's a lot of good tight ends that didn't make it on the list. Um, that I was kind of surprised to see Tyler Higbee not on the list. The Rams tight end. He's just been pretty solid over the years. So kind of expected to see him on the top 10. I kind of wondered who was going to be like 5 through 10 on the list just because some of these guys didn't make it on the list. I was like, well, who did make it then? So it was interesting to see that. The rookie Pat Fryermuth, he didn't make it the list either. He had 7 touchdowns last year, which for a rookie, tight end is pretty good. I don't know how he's going to go this season if he has the rookie Kenny Pickett playing quarterback or Mitch Trubisky. We saw he kind of struggled with the Bears and then went to the Bills to watch Josh Allen or back up Josh Allen for a year, and we thought he was going to have his chance in Pittsburgh, but now looks like he's going to have to compete with Kenny Pickett. So we'll see. But either way, I think the tight end will be either one of those quarterbacks' best friends. So he could have a good year, but with the quarterback controversy or competition, we don't know. He doesn't. We don't know how he'll fare this year just because of that. Just it's good to know who your quarterback is, and you can make the rapport. So if you kind of have two guys who you're trying to figure out who's going to win, then you're not really getting that full rapport with the one guy who will be starting. So it's just something to think about for him. He is a young tight end as well. So then other guys like Zach Ertz, who kind of was one of the top tight ends in the league for a while there in Philly. Obviously, they had a young guy, Dallas Goedert, come up and kind of take his spot. Ertz got shipped off to Arizona. Now he's playing with Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore. I think that offense will be pretty explosive this year again, like they always are. I don't know, Zach Ertz. When you're around that many people who are like expecting the ball, it's hard to get your catches. So we will see how his season goes, but he is another honorable mention on this list. CJ Uzuma from the Bengals, who I like. He's a big guy. So, but he just doesn't have the consistent numbers. But he was another honorable mention. And then guys like Noah Fant, who's young. He went from Denver to Seattle now. He'll be playing in a different system. We'll see how that goes with Drew Lock. And then Austin Hooper, who he was a Falcon. Then he went to play with Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, and now he's in Tennessee with Tannehill. So we'll see how Hooper does. He's just another guy on this who didn't make the list. And then Jonnu Smith, Patriot tight end, which is interesting because another Patriot tight end actually made the list. So they do have 2 good tight ends like they used to back in the day. But yeah, so yeah, cool to see that teams are still running that 2 tight end look. Obviously, the Patriots have done that for a while now. The last honorable mention was Mike Gesicki, the Miami Dolphins tight end. He lost the tiebreaker to the guy that got 10th on this list, and so Gesicki ended up 11th, I guess. And he's just a poor pass blocker or blocker in general. Great, he's got great speed for a tight end, great in the pass, but just the blocking issue is why Hunter Henry was the one to take over the 10th spot. So Hunter Henry is 10th on this list. He had 9 touchdowns last year, which coming over from the Chargers with a rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, that's pretty solid numbers. I looked to see his numbers go up. I thought Jonnu Smith had kind of a down year. I look for his numbers to go up as well. I look for Mac Jones just to play better in general. I really do think Mac was the most pro-ready, and he kind of proved it last year. Obviously, Belichick kind of held in the reins a little bit on him, only letting him pass 3 times in that Buffalo Bills game. Kind of a funny game plan, but they won, so you can't question it too much. But yeah, so Hunter Henry, I mean, I just kind of look for him to have a good game or a good season this year. He was one of my favorite tight ends, like playing for the Chargers, and then I was surprised he left to go to the Patriots, and just interesting to see how he fares with Jonnu Smith and Mac Jones in his second season. Something to look for. I am excited to see how that plays out. Number 9 on this list, another guy with 9 touchdown passes or receptions, Dawson Knox, the Buffalo Bills tight end. He's in a really great situation, great system. He's still pretty young, really young for any of these guys on this list, and with guys like Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis, obviously Josh Allen throwing the ball, he's primed for a pretty good season again. Should be on this list again next year. I just like his style. He kind of he's sneaky. He gets downfield, and he's just wide open sometimes, and you can really Allen can really depend on him to make a play. So that's why he's on the list at number 9. I actually thought he'd be higher up, ahead of some of these other guys. Just, I guess I don't really know who. Maybe the next 3 guys could all be kind of shuffled around. So Dawson Knox at number 9. Yeah, let's see who. Oh, on the I just looking at some fantasy just to try to see how this gauges with fantasy projections for the year, and Dawson's actually number 7 in the fantasy projection, so pretty close, but still something to look for when you're doing that. If you do fantasy football, number 8, Dalton Schultz, the Dallas Cowboys tight end. Obviously, they've kind of gone through a few tight ends. They had Witten for a long time, and then they've been kind of trying to figure out that tight end situation for a while now. Dalton Schultz has 12 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons, which really makes him, a prime target for Dak Prescott. He's number 6 on this list for fantasy football projections, so that's pretty high for him, actually. He's 12 touchdowns is good, but all these, like I've been saying, the guys behind him have 9 just last year. Dalton Schultz has been pretty consistent over the last few years. I look for him to have another big season. Dak's, kind of cut that body or that baby fat. He's got the body looking good. He's ready to come back. Zeke looks like he's going to run strong again. CD's ready to take over that number 1 receiver role. They got Jalen Tolbert out of South Alabama. He's ready to rock, and I think Dalton Schultz is just going to, reap the benefits of all those guys doing their part. Schultz is dependable, and, he's a big guy again. All these tight ends are just big athletic dudes, so anytime you can get them one-on-one with anybody, really, they're going to make a play, and I look for Dalton Schultz to be taking the next leap this year. So he's number 8 on this list. Yeah, pretty cool to see, at least the Cowboy made one of these lists. They didn't make the quarterback list, I guess Dak was 10th, and then the running back list, Zeke was like 12th, and then the wide receiver list, CD was like 16th, I think. So to see Dalton Schultz is the highest Cowboy on one of these lists at number 8 is pretty interesting to see. So number 7, we got the Lions tight end, TJ Hockenson. This young guy is just a really solid football player. Out of Iowa, he always liked the Iowa tight ends. Good blocker, good pass catcher, just really a solid player. He kind of, had some injury issues so far in his career, but when he's out there, he's one of golf's main targets. He has a lot of catches. They keep him in the block, so he doesn't miss out on plays. He's just a really dynamic football player. I look for him to take another leap now since he's been in the league. He's been playing and really shown that he can step up and actually be a consistent target for Goff. Obviously, they have Amon St. Brown, who really came on last year as a dynamic wide receiver for Goff. though these two guys can go out there and try to make some plays together. I look for the Lions to just be better as a team as a whole. Obviously, Swift, he's just really great. He's just a really great back. So they're going to have some pieces, and Hockenson's going to be part of that. And they got a really young core group of guys that's going to kind of push this Lions team forward, and we'll see how they fare this year. Hockenson comes out at number 7. Where does he show up? Oh, he's number 9 on the fantasy projections. I think he's actually, when he's out there, he catches a lot of balls because Goff's kind of that short, intermediate throw type quarterback, and that's where a guy like Hockenson kind of hangs out in that area. So look for him to have a big year if he can stay healthy. In number 6, we have Dallas Goedert. I liked him. He kind of is the reason why Philly was able to trade Zach Ertz to the Cardinals. Dallas Goedert really came on. He's shown that he can play. He's shown that he can block and be a pass catcher. Jalen Hurts, kind of that same, short intermediate thrower. He doesn't do a lot of deep balls, so tight ends are the best friends for guys like that. Just that dink and dunk type of stuff. Goedert's, 4 touchdowns last year, 830 yards though, and that's with Ertz playing some of the season. So I think with him being the number 1 tight end, the number 1 focal point, obviously they got an upgrade with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith at wide receiver. So those guys are going to be running down the middle or down the sidelines, and Goedert will be able to go down the seam and really take advantage of some of those double teams that those guys are asking for, and he'll be single covered on a safety or a linebacker down the middle and be able to make a play. So I look for Goedert to have a good season. Where's he ranked on? He's number 8. So pretty good. They're all pretty close to what they, the projections, what they are ranked is kind of what they think they'll kind of do this year. Goedert had to sit behind Zach Ertz for a few years and kind of watch how he played. So he's kind of got some of that Zach Ertz, game, some of the game that Ertz played with. Goedert just, he's just a gamer. He makes some big plays. He makes some good contested catches. And I think with Jalen Hurts taking that next step this year, it's really going to benefit Goedert. He's just going to take that next step as well, and I look for him to have easily over 1,000 yards this year, if not put up bigger numbers than that. He rounds out number 6, and now to the top 5. A guy who I didn't, I knew he'd be good. He's just freakishly tall, fast. He went, top 5 in the draft for a tight end, which is insane. Last year, and he had over 1,000 yards receiving, but only 1 touchdown, and that's Kyle Pitts. Thus, he'll be a second-year player for the Atlanta Falcons, obviously. I had him on my fantasy team last year, which, I kind of just took a gamble on him, thinking, well, let's see how he does. He had a few big games yardage-wise, and then obviously that 1 touchdown, but he was up and down. But I look for him to be really consistent this year, kind of be the main target. Falcons don't have a whole lot going on. I know they drafted, I think, Drake London, but otherwise they don't have a lot of pieces. Mariota and Cordero Patterson, who I do like a lot. But it's going to be interesting to see how that offense kind of flows. I know Russell Gage went to Tampa, and obviously they don't have Julio anymore. He's been gone for a few years now, so Pitts is kind of the man now down there, and I look for him to kind of take over and really have a productive season. Last year you could tell that he was kind of out of sorts, kind of, maybe was still learning the playbook, learning where he should be at on certain times and trying to figure out a little rapport. But now he's got a new quarterback down there, and we'll see how that all progresses. I still look for Pitts to put up his numbers. He's just too good, too freakish of an athlete, too tall, too fast, too really be held down for too long. Made it to a number, top 5 on this list, which I think is pretty crazy for a second-year guy. He is the youngest one on this list by far. I think Knox or Hockenson are probably are behind him, but Pitts is just going to be a talent in this league for the next 10 years at least. I look for him to have a big season if he can get a quarterback that can be consistent at least a little bit. I know Mariota hasn't started in this league for a while, but I think he does have the talent to kind of be good. If he doesn't make it, then I know they drafted that Desmond Ridder guy out of Cincinnati. He does look like he could potentially have some talent to be a quarterback later in this league. So we will see how that progresses. Atlanta's kind of a rebuild right now, so Pitts will be kind of in the mix with all that, and hopefully he can still have a big season and be on this list again next year. So number 4. Now we're starting to get into the top guys here. This guy had 107 catches, 9 touchdowns last year. Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. He's just really a dynamic player. He kind of lulls you to sleep with some, how he kind of runs and kind of how he plays. But then he makes that catch, or defenders are going like this, and he's getting down between them and catching it. Like I've seen him make some really crazy catches when Lamar's kind of just winging it out there and trying to get, make a play. So 107 catches for anybody is a lot, and for a tight end that's huge, especially when you're kind of a running team. Your running backs are kind of the focal point. Your quarterback's more of a running back, but can throw it really well as well, for the most part. And he made it. What was he on this? Oh, he's number 2 on the fantasy projection list for this year. That's really high. Obviously, they think he's going to come, have a big season. The Ravens got rid of Hollywood Brown. He went to the Cardinals. So Andrews will be kind of the main focal point at receiver for Lamar. It just came out that no big receivers want to go play with Lamar. I think that's crap, but he was a unanimous MVP. He's got the most rushing yards for anybody since he's came into the league as for a quarterback. He just can be looked at as like the top 5-10 running back in the league if you want to look at him like that. But either way, Andrews still had 107 catches, and I look for him to have a bigger year this year. He's just a really dynamic player. I like him a lot. He's going to go high in fantasy drafts and everything just because he's basically a receiver. He puts up stats like a receiver, and he's going to be the number 1 target pretty much like a receiver would be for the Ravens. So he came out at number 4. I have nothing to argue about with him being there. Fantasy-wise and other projections, they kind of would argue for him to be ahead of number 3 here, who is Darren Waller. Waller kind of had a down year last year. Only 2 touchdowns. He was hurt a bit of the year. A lot of that craziness going on in Las Vegas with Gruden, and then with Henry Ruggs and the defensive back that on Instagram and all that stuff. So Waller's year kind of just got washed out. The Raiders had an okay season, but no one really expected them to do much. However, in 2020 and 2019, Waller had back-to-back 1,200-yard seasons. That's crazy for anybody, again, let alone a tight end. He is a huge dude, like 6'6", fast, strong, played basketball, so he's kind of got that Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, kind of feel to him. But he really can high point the ball, make the catch way up high. He out jump a lot of guys, with the rebounding and the box out, like from basketball. So he just, he's a really dynamic player. And I think with having a guy like Hunter Renfrow in the slot, kind of making some room and clearing out space, and then having Devontae as just a threat all over the field, I think Waller's kind of going to be that forgotten guy, and he's going to bounce back. If Devontae gets doubled and Hunter gets kind of doubled with linebackers, safety combos or whatever, or kind of like shadow coverage, I think Waller's going to be the guy that's left open because they're not going to have enough guys to cover. So I look for Waller to have a big bounce-back season if he can stay healthy. Obviously, Derek Carr put up the biggest numbers he has in his career last year, and I look for him to have equal success this year, especially with the addition of Davante Adams. He is going to make any team better, and he's going to help every other guy on the team have a little bit easier time because he demands double teams and double coverage. So I look for them to really have a big year this year. That AFC West is going to be tough, though, so we will see how that all fares. Number 3, Darren Waller. So at number 2, This is pretty crazy because you'd think he'd be number one based just on the fact that he's the only player in the NFL to record 80 catches and 1,000 yards receiving since every season since 2016, which out of everybody, only player in the NFL. That's receivers, everybody, only player with 80 plus catches and 1,000 yards receiving every year since 2016. That's a crazy stat to think about. It's Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Kelce is 32 years old, which does put him at the higher end on this list of tight ends. He's been doing it for a long time in this league. Him and Mahomes have a really good rapport. Now, with Tyreek Hill being gone, Kelce's going to be pretty much that number one target for Patrick Mahomes. I know Marquez Valdez-Scantling is now in Kansas City, and they drafted Sky Moore, who I do like as well. He actually led the FBS in receptions last year, so he'll be a big target for Mahomes. Kelce's he's so dynamic. He's going to have a big year again. Obviously, he's number two on this list for a reason. He's a good enough blocker, decent blocker, good blocker, and obviously he's just super dynamic in the pass game. Can run deep routes. He runs really crisp routes. He does it all. He really does. You can set up screens for him, or really short, little tiny screens, or just like middle bubble screens and stuff to Kelce, which is unusual to do for a tight end, but he makes it work, and then he's 50, 60 yards downfield for a touchdown. So I look for him to keep doing what he's been doing. Chiefs are going to be in a big struggle, like I just talked about with the AFC West with the Raiders. It's going to be a tough division. A lot of these teams are going to be battling it out deep into games. There's not going to be a lot of blowouts where teams are just running the ball at the end of the game. These teams are going to be throwing it deep into the fourth quarter. Guys like Herbert, and Mahomes and Carr, even Wilson, they're going to be putting up huge numbers because they're all going to be competing so much. I look for Kelce to have a really big year again. He runs out number two. He's number two on this list, and that takes us to number one finally. And the process of elimination, that leaves George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, he was injured for 3 games last year. He only played for 14 games. So he had 6 touchdowns, over 900 yards, and it's not just the receiving, though, with George Kittle. George Kittle is probably, the best. Well, he's at least the most fun blocker to watch. He is like laughing as he does it. But he might be one of the best blockers in the league for a tight end. I always think Mercedes Lewis is probably the best blocking tight end in football, the Packers tight end. But George Kittle is just, he just plays with such enthusiasm and aggression, and just, when he blocks, you can tell that he's clearing it space and he's having fun doing it. So, I really like Kittle. He's savvy in the pass game. He knows how to, find the open area and, that little seam in the coverage and find that zone and when they're playing zone and everything. So, the open zone. So, it's just, watching Kittle's fun. Obviously, the 49ers have Debo and they have Brandon Ayuk. And so, with the quarterback situation, it's like Jimmy G's still on the roster. Trey Lance, I've heard things about, but who knows what's true anymore with everything that's being said. I look for Lance to kind of be the starter and if he struggles, Jimmy G will come in, so that might kind of cause issues for Kittle. He has trouble staying healthy because of how he plays. He plays so aggressive. He does get banged up a lot. He does play injured, but if he is too injured, he wouldn't play, obviously. And I don't, with the quarterback situation, kind of be in limbo. And how Kittle plays, I think there's guys that would have a better fantasy year. Yeah, for fantasy, George Kittle is on number 5 on the list. He's number 1 on this list, though. And Kelce's number 1 on the fantasy list. I didn't even look at that when I was talking about Kelce. So Kelce is projected to be number 1 in fantasy, Kittle number 5. But per the NFL insiders and executives, Kittle is number 1 on this list. He is, like I said, he's only 28 compared to Kelce being 32. That's a big difference in the NFL, 4 years, especially at such a physical position like tight end. So I look for Kittle to kind of bounce back this year, hopefully play all 17 games. If he does that, he'll easily be over 1,000 yards. If Trey Lance can really take that step, I think it's going to really help the whole team, obviously, in San Francisco. But if Jimmy G does have to play, him and Kittle have a rapport already, and I think Kittle will, either way, he's going to have a good year, I think. If Lance plays, they're going to be doing short passes. Kittle will likely be the guy who's the beneficiary of those. Just Kittle's such a dynamic player. He just knows how to run routes. He knows how to find that open zone. It's just he's been doing it for so long. Obviously, as a Packers fan, I've played against him a lot of times in the playoffs and in the regular season. I just always respected how he's played. Always thought that he was just a baller, and I always worry about him being the game breaker, the one to break it open, because he has the potential to do that on offense, blocking and receiving the ball. So that's the top 10 list of tight ends per the NFL insiders, executives, coaches, players from all around the league. That's it. That's everything. They're going to come out with a new list with like offensive line, defense, all that, linebackers and stuff. But if you haven't yet, check out the videos I did on the running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. See you in the next one. Peace.